You know, that phone in your pocket, the coffee you're drinking, even the clothes you're wearing, they all got to you through this massive global system we almost never think about. But what happens when that system breaks? Okay, let's get into it because the intricate web that brings us our world is, well, way more delicate than you might think.
Right. This is the image that launched 1,000 memes, but it's also the perfect symbol for our story today. So you've got the Ever Given, a container ship as long as the Empire State Building is tall, and it gets wedged sideways in the Suez Canal for 6 whole days. And it wasn't just one ship that was stuck. It literally created a global traffic jam, bringing a key artery of world trade to a dead stop.
And the cost of that little mishap? Well, estimates put the price of that 6-day blockage at up to $10 billion a week for global trade. Let that sink in. $10 billion. All because one ship got stuck. It just goes to show you how much is riding on this system working perfectly every single second of every day. So that really brings us to the big question, right? How on earth can a single point of failure, one ship, trigger such a massive worldwide crisis? The answer isn't just about bad luck or a windy day. It's actually about the very way we've designed our entire world. See, the problem isn't just the risk of random accidents. It's practically baked into the system's DNA. We've built our supply chains to be incredibly, unbelievably efficient, but in doing so, we've also made them incredibly brittle. You could call it the efficiency paradox. And this paradox really boils down to two totally opposite philosophies. For decades, the winning strategy has been just in time. That's where parts and products arrive exactly when they're needed, which minimizes storage costs. The other way is just in case, where you keep extra stuff, safety stock, on hand for emergencies. One saves money, the other saves you from disaster. Take a guess which one usually wins out? And that choice creates this massive tug of war inside basically every company. The finance department, they want to keep inventory as low as humanly possible to save cash. Operations, they just want to make sure there's enough material to keep the factory floor from stopping. And sales, well, they want warehouses overflowing so they never ever miss a sale. And then there's us, the customers. We just want the lowest price possible. You can totally see the conflict here. So here's the bottom line. The push for lower costs and faster delivery almost always wins. And we've ended up with this global machine that is lean, fast, and super cost-effective when everything's going right, but it's dangerously fragile and incredibly vulnerable to the slightest shock. So you've got this system that's already built to be fragile. Now let's throw in a whole world of external threats just waiting to cause trouble. Think of this next part as a kind of rogues gallery of everything that can and definitely does go wrong. First up, we've got basic infrastructure. We're talking roads, railways, bridges, the works. And sometimes the problem is as simple as a truck that's just a little too tall for the bridge it's trying to go under. A single miscalculation, one tiny moment of error, and boom, traffic is stopped for hours. It's such a small failure, but with huge ripple effects. Then you have Mother Nature. A massive snowstorm, like the one you're seeing here, doesn't just make the roads a bit icy, it can knock out power grids, shut down entire factories, and paralyze delivery services across a whole region. We saw exactly that happen in the US back in 2021. And you know, the threats aren't always these sudden dramatic events. Slow-moving changes, like droughts that are fueled by climate change, can be just as devastating. This picture here shows a marina in California where the water levels have dropped so low that the docks are just sitting on dry land. Imagine a major port or a waterway just not being usable anymore. And finally, of course, there are major man-made incidents. A catastrophic oil spill, like the Exxon Valdez back in 1989, doesn't just cause unbelievable environmental damage. The fallout from something like that leads to years of new regulations, higher insurance costs, and more expensive ship designs, making the whole system slower and more expensive for everyone. Okay, so what happens when a system that's already built to be brittle gets slammed by several of these risks all at once? Well, you get a perfect storm. And guess what? We all just lived through the ultimate case study, the COVID-19 pandemic. This quote, it really says it all. When the pandemic hit, countries started closing their borders, and suddenly trucks were backed up for nearly 40 miles. The whole just-in-time system relies on things moving seamlessly, and in an instant, that movement was just gone. And this wasn't just a problem in Europe. Oh no. Over in India, the lockdowns led to this massive shortage of truck drivers. The result? Over 50,000 containers just sat there, piled up at major ports, completely unable to move. It was the entire global system grinding to a halt with multiple failure points all going off at once.
So, if the world is this chaotic and our systems are this fragile, how do we even begin to manage it all? Well, the thing is, you can't eliminate risk, but you can plan for it. The goal isn't really to predict the future, but to build in resilience.
So, the strategy for building resilience is really a continuous cycle. First, you try to identify everything that could possibly go wrong, from a stuck ship to, a global pandemic. Then you weigh their potential impact. You come up with plans to soften the blow. And maybe most importantly, every time something does go wrong, you learn from it, and you feed those lessons right back into your planning for the next crisis. It's really about being prepared, not about being perfect.
Which kind of leaves us with one last thought to chew on. We've looked at all the risks and how the system is designed, but at the end of the day, it all comes back to a choice. A choice that's driven by our own demands as consumers. So, the question is, in our constant search for cheaper products and next-day delivery, are we, without even realizing it, making our entire world more fragile? Definitely something to think about.